can still see it now, the wooden bench by the river. The paint was peeling from years of wind and rain, but it was ours. 10 years ago, we had claimed it without a word, as if the bench had been waiting for us all along. Every Sunday without fail we met there at 9 a.m. I would arrive first holding 2 coffees, one black, one with milk and too much sugar. I never had to ask how he liked it. I had learned long ago. He would appear from the path on the east side, wearing the same faded jacket, hands deep in the pockets, a half-smile already forming as he saw me. We didn't talk about how it started. That first Sunday had been an accident. 2 strangers who happened to sit on the same bench and watch the river roll past. But the next Sunday he was there again. And the one after that. And so a routine began without a promise, without a plan. In those early years we talked about everything and nothing. He told me stories from his childhood, fishing trips with his father, the time he broke his arm climbing a tree. I told him about my first job, my failed attempts at painting, the cat I had when I was 12. We never ran out of things to say. The bench became a place outside of time. When we sat there, the rest of the week didn't matter. The noise of the city faded, replaced by the gentle splash of water against the rocks. Even in winter, when the wind cut through our coats, we sat there, sipping coffee with our gloves on, steam rising from the cups. Sometimes I wondered what people thought of us. Were we friends? Lovers? Something in between? We never defined it. We didn't need to. All I knew was that Sunday mornings belonged to us. As the years passed, life happened, jobs changed, people came and went, the seasons turned. But the bench was constant, and so was he. There was comfort in knowing that no matter what the week brought, I could count on that 1 hour on Sunday to remind me that not everything in life is uncertain. And then one Sunday he wasn't there. First I didn't worry. Maybe he was running late. Maybe the bus was delayed. Or he'd stopped to help someone. I checked my watch. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I finished my coffee, but his cup, the one with too much sugar, sat untouched beside me. An hour later I was still there, still looking down the path to the east. The bench felt colder than usual. That was the first time in 10 years I left alone. The next Sunday I arrived early. Earlier than usual. Maybe he had come the week before, but at a different time, and we'd missed each other. That thought kept me hopeful as I walked down the familiar path, 2 coffees in hand, the cold morning air biting my cheeks. The bench was empty. I sat down anyway. Every few minutes I looked up at the path to the east, expecting to see his jacket, his familiar slow walk. But the minutes stretched, and the coffee in my right hand grew colder. By 9:30 I started to feel a weight in my chest. Not panic yet, just a quiet unease. 10 years of Sundays, and not once had he failed to show up without telling me. We never made formal promises, but this was different. That evening I couldn't stop thinking about it. I replayed every recent Sunday in my mind, searching for signs I might have missed. Was he quieter than usual? Did he seem tired? Did I say something wrong? By Tuesday my unease had grown into worry. I didn't even know where he lived. In 10 years we'd shared so much, but we had never exchanged addresses. We were connected, but in a strange way, separate yet constant. I checked my phone. No message. No missed call. Just silence. The 3rd Sunday came and still no sign of him. That was when I knew something was truly wrong. I decided to find him. It wasn't easy. All I knew was his first name, Daniel, and pieces of his life from the stories he'd told me. He'd worked at a bookstore years ago. He liked fishing. He had a sister somewhere up north. I went to the old bookstore where he'd said he used to work. The place was gone, replaced by a clothing shop. The young woman behind the counter looked puzzled when I asked about it, as if I were talking about something from another lifetime. I tried the local library, hoping they might know him. He loved books after all. But the librarian shook her head. "Sorry," she said. "We see so many people. It felt strange, searching for someone who had been such a fixed point in my life, and realizing how little I actually knew about the practical details of his. No address, no family contacts, no workplace. Only memories. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself walking to the bench by the river. The moonlight spilled across the water, the air heavy with the smell of wet earth. I sat down and imagined him beside me, his voice low, telling one of his stories. That's when I noticed something. Carved into the wood of the bench, faint but still visible. It was two initials, D+M. My breath caught. We'd never carved them. I didn't even know when they appeared. But the D, could it be him? The next day I went back in the daylight to see it clearly. The carving was old, weathered. Maybe it had been there for years unnoticed. Maybe it meant nothing. But somehow it felt like a sign, a trace of him that the river hadn't washed away. I still didn't know where he was or why he had vanished. But standing there, touching those worn letters, I made myself a promise. I would find out what happened to Daniel no matter how long it took. Weeks passed. Each Sunday I still went to the bench. I knew it was irrational, but part of me believed he might just appear again, smile at me and say, "Sorry I'm late." Then one rainy afternoon as I came home from work, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, written in neat handwriting I recognized instantly. Daniel. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "I'm sorry for disappearing. I didn't want to worry you, but I didn't know how to explain. I've been sick for some time and I didn't want you to see me like this. You were the best part of my week for 10 years, and I'm grateful for every Sunday. Please remember me as I was on the bench by the river, coffee in hand. Daniel." I read the letter over and over, each word cutting deeper. Sick? For how long? And why didn't he tell me? The letter had no date, no way to reach him. It was both a farewell and a mystery. I couldn't accept that this was the end. That letter was a door left half open, and I needed to step through it. I went to the city hospital, asking if they had a patient named Daniel who matched his description. The nurse shook her head. "We can't give out information like that," she said gently. I tried searching online, typing every combination of Daniel and fishing, bookstore, Sunday bench. Nothing. Finally, I decided to leave my own letter. Not in a mailbox but on the bench. I placed it under a small stone in case he came back. "Daniel, I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if you've changed. You matter to me, and I'd rather sit with you through the worst days than never see you again." Weeks went by. The letter stayed untouched, weathered by wind and rain. My hope began to thin, but I kept coming back. One Sunday, as I sat on the bench, a woman approached. She looked to be in her 40s, carrying a small bouquet of white flowers. "Are you the person who used to meet Daniel here?" she asked. I nodded, my throat tight. "I'm his sister," she said softly. "He talked about you. Every Sunday after he got home, he'd call me and tell me what you'd discussed. He said it was the happiest hour of his week." I wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but she placed the flowers on the bench and said, "He passed away 2 months ago. He didn't tell you because he didn't want you to watch him fade. He wanted you to remember him alive, laughing." The world went silent. Even the river seemed to stop. She handed me a small notebook. "He wanted you to have this." The notebook was filled with his handwriting. Thoughts, stories, sketches of the river, and notes about me. Little things I'd said over the years. She laughs when the wind blows her hair into her face. She always brings the coffee in her right hand. She doesn't know it, but she's kept me alive longer than I thought possible. I sat on the bench for hours reading every page. The grief was heavy, but beneath it was something else, gratitude. For 10 years we had shared something pure and rare. It didn't matter that we hadn't called it friendship or love. It was ours. Now every Sunday I still go to the bench. I bring 2 coffees. I drink mine and I place the other beside me, letting the steam rise into the air. And sometimes in the quiet I can almost hear him say, "Sorry I'm late." Sometimes in life we meet someone who changes the way we see the world. Not through grand gestures but through quiet, steady presence. Daniel was that person for the narrator. For 10 years they shared 1 hour every Sunday. Just 1 hour. Yet that hour became an anchor. A place where the noise of the world faded and something real remained. What makes this story so moving is not only the loss, but also what it reveals about connection. In our busy lives, it's easy to overlook the value of consistent, simple moments. We chase after milestones, celebrations, achievements, and yet sometimes the most meaningful thing is just showing up week after week for someone else. Daniel didn't promise forever. Neither did the narrator. There was no formal agreement, no spoken commitment. But for 10 years they chose each other, every Sunday morning without fail. That choice, repeated again and again, built something deeper than most relationships that come with labels. When Daniel disappeared, the silence was more than absence. It was a rupture in the pattern of life itself. The narrator's search wasn't just about finding him. It was about holding on to the certainty that some connections don't just vanish without reason. And in the end, the truth came with both pain and peace. Daniel's decision not to let the narrator see him sick was an act of love in its own way, a wish to preserve their time together in memory, untouched by decline. But it also raises a difficult question. Would it have been better to let the narrator share those final days? Would the burden of watching him fade have been outweighed by the comfort of being there until the end? There's no right answer, only the reality that love sometimes chooses silence. The gift of the notebook is perhaps the most powerful moment. It's a record of 10 years of small observations, proof that even when we think we are just passing the time with someone, we may be shaping their entire life. Daniel saw the narrator, truly saw them, not in the way we glance at strangers, but in the way we watch someone we care about, noticing the tiny details that make them who they are. This story is a reminder that we rarely know the full impact we have on others. A casual conversation, a shared coffee, a quiet laugh. These things might be keeping someone afloat without us realizing it. If you take one thing away from this story, let it be this: show up for the people who matter to you. Keep the small traditions alive. Don't underestimate the power of your presence, even if you have nothing important to say. And if you're lucky enough to have a Sunday bench with someone, whatever form that takes, cherish it. Because one day you might arrive to find the other seat empty. And while the grief will be heavy, the memories will be a treasure you carry for the rest of your life.